start from scratch, please?
Right, thank you again, Guillermo. Right.
Still not. Hello.
Right, so we're gonna start with some background information, and then I'm gonna give two arguments in support of weak Kleene ST, and both of the arguments run parallel, and both from revenge paradoxes. Right, some background is that ST, which is usually based on strong Kleene, was motivated by its ability to express a fully transparent truth, as well as this principle of tolerance, while avoiding the semantical and theoretical paradoxes, and stays very close to classical logic. Merzi and Rossi in 2020 showed that the notion of unparadoxicality, even though it plays a major role in the theory ST, in recapturing results, but the theory of truth based on ST cannot be extended to express the notion of unparadoxicality on pain of revenge paradox. Similarly, Bruni and Rossi in 2023 argued that the theory of vagueness based on SST, again, strong Kleene ST, cannot be extended to express the notion of determinateness on pain of revenge paradoxes, even though determinateness plays a huge role in the theory. On the other hand, weak Kleene-based logics usually only receive attention insofar they can handle meaningless yet grammatical sentences. But what we want to show today in this talk is that not only a weak Kleene-based ST can handle the revenge paradoxes that strong Kleene-based ST faces, but an analysis on how these paradoxes arise should give us, or should motivate the strong Kleene ST theorist to move away from strong Kleene valuation and adopt a weak Kleene valuation, right? So some background information about strong Kleene and weak Kleene. First, we're going to start with the language, a standard first order language, plus the constants verum and falsum. And the strong Kleene model is usually through these tables. We can ignore the quantifier because we're not going to use it. But what I want you to focus on today is conjunction mainly, because it's going to play a huge role in the revenge paradoxes. So conjunction in a strong Kleene model usually takes the minimum value. So if you have a 0 conjunct, then the whole thing is going to be 0. On the other hand, a weak Kleene-based model, the third value n is contagious. So if you have 0 and an n, then it's not going to be 0 like strong Kleene, but it's going to be an n. So whenever you have a conjunct that is an n, then the whole thing is going to be an n as well. So that's why we call it contagious or infectious, right? And we define validity in terms of counterexamples like Ripley. So a strong Kleene-based ST counterexample to such sequent would be a strong Kleene model such that all of gamma in here is true and all of delta in here is false. And we say a sequence is SST valid if and only if there is no strong Kleene model that is a counterexample to it. The same thing for WST, weak Kleene-based SD, just based on weak Kleene models. One last point, in the revenge paradoxes that Merzi and Rossi and Bruni and Rossi use, they use the notions of unparadoxicality and determinateness. I'm going to use the notion of groundedness to encompass both of them, right? Okay, so let's talk about the semantic paradox first. So to construct Merzi and Rossi's revenge paradox, we will expand our language to include a transparent truth predicate, as well include a groundedness predicate. And as you expected, a sentence is grounded if and only if it receives the value 0 or 1, otherwise it's ungrounded. And again, the truth predicate is transparent, so it's going to take the value of the sentence itself. right? And we're gonna call these theories of truth and groundedness as SSTTG and WSTTG for strong Kleene, weak Kleene based. Okay. We're gonna add, just like Murzi and Rossi, some groundedness rules. They use the rules for unparadoxicality, but again, can use the notion of groundedness. So these two rules basically say that if cut is admissible on phi, then phi is grounded. And on the other hand, if phi is grounded, then cut is admissible on it. Right? From there, we can get the paradox by letting zeta be a sentence that says, I am not true and grounded. I'll spare you the details of the paradoxical proof, but all I want you to focus on is the conjunction elimination here and here, mainly that one. Because this one is the culprit, the main culprit of the revenge paradox. To sum up the revenge paradox proof, it relies on two main claims. The first claim is that for any phi, cut is admissible on phi if and only if phi is grounded. That comes from the groundedness rule. And the second one is that if a formula is a conjunction, then cut is admissible on it. Claim 2 follows from the fact that that conjunction elimination is admissible in strong Kleene ST. And you can check very easily. So it follows that this instance of cut is always admissible in strong Kleene ST. And because this instance of cut is admissible, then anything in the form of a conjunction is going to be grounded. And that's not good. So a proponent of strong Kleene ST with transparent truth predicate who wants to express the notion of groundedness must reject claim 1. Because rejecting claim 2 would entail rejecting strong Kleene models. But as we're going to see, if you reject claim 1, then you're also rejecting strong Kleene models. To reject claim 1 is to either say that if cut is admissible on phi, to reject that, or reject the claim that if phi is grounded, then cut is admissible on phi. In other words, you have to reject one of the GRD rules, right? Suppose you reject GRDN or GRD introduction. This would entail that cut is admissible on some ungrounded cut formulas. But this is not going to help you at all with the revenge paradox, because zeta in our example must be grounded. Because the groundedness predicate is always bivalent, either true or false. There's no third value for it. So if we assume that zeta is ungrounded, then the second conjunct has to be false. But remember, in strong Kleene models, if you have a false conjunct, then the whole thing is false, then the whole thing is false and grounded. And you still get the problem. The revenge paradox goes through. On the other hand, if we reject GRD elimination, this means that cut is not admissible on all grounded cut formulas. But that doesn't make sense. Because if that's the case, then you have something like gamma implies phi delta and sigma phi entails chi, but not the case where gamma sigma entails delta chi. And that doesn't make sense because if this is false, right? So that means all of the left hand is true, all of the right hand is false. And because phi is grounded, right? We said there are some cut not admissible to grounded sentences. So that means here if phi is 1, this doesn't go through. If phi is 0, this doesn't go through. Right? So it doesn't make sense to get rid of GRD elimination. So to prevent the Murzi and Rossi paradox, we must treat zeta as an ungrounded sentence. But to treat zeta as an ungrounded sentence is to take that conjunction with a ungrounded conjunct to be infectious. In other words, conjunction must obey weak Kleene evaluation. And in fact, in the theory based on weak Kleene evaluation, you can simply check that conjunction elimination is not admissible, right? And it's not going to be admissible for the instances we saw. Right. One natural question is whether there can be revenge arguments in weak Kleene STTG. Gupta and Martin in 1984 showed that in general, a language based on weak Kleene can express its unparadoxicality or ungroundedness predicate. But since we're working with this specific theory, we can simply show that it's revenge-free. To show that it's revenge-free, remember, we mean by revenge that it means the groundedness predicate, and also it means that it trivializes the theory. And so we must have something like this, because in order to cut on this, on rho, we must have rho to be grounded. So the theory must, at least until that rho is grounded, until that rho, and rho entails something absurd, right? But to say a sentence is a revenge sentence, it must use the groundedness predicate. Either it says of itself ungrounded or grounded, right? But because it entails GRD rho and GRD is bivalent, it must be one. So now put the rho sentence in a conjunctive normal form, so that we work with conjunction the same way we worked earlier. So now you have rho, long sentence, maybe a long sentence, with one of the conjuncts being GRD rho, or one of the conjuncts being not GRD rho. In either case, whether the rest are receive the value n or none receive the value n, you're gonna reach a contradiction. So there cannot be a revenge argument in weak Kleene based STTG. Okay, so that's for the semantic revenge. An argument from theoretical revenge is going to run very similar. As we're going to see, it also depends on the problem with conjunction. Of course, with ST, you can use other connectives, but here we're focusing on conjunction. So we're going to expand our base language once more, but this time with a vague predicate and a two-place relation, as well as the groundedness predicate defined earlier. And let P, that vague predicate, be your favorite. We're going to use this toll as an example. And the tilde P is going to mean that the object Ci is indistinguishable from the object Ci plus 1 with respect to tollness, if we're using toll for our vague predicate. From there, we can set up a revenge argument with a few assumptions. So we're going to assume that you can line up your people, if we're taking toll, line them up from toll to not toll. So at least the first one is toll, and at least the last one is not toll. And then you have some in the middle that receive and to be one person, right? And each person next to the next person is indistinguishable in terms of tollness, right? We will also assume the tolerance principle, which says if an object is toll and saying that the object is toll is grounded, and it is indistinguishable from the other object, and that other object is also toll, and saying that that object is toll is also grounded. Right? From these assumptions, there is a smallest I such that it receives the value n when we say about the object is toll. So So suppose this one is the first one that receives the value n. Let's call that object is CR. And hence CR is ungrounded, and the person before CR is obviously tall, right? So let's call for one more. Let's call that person PQ, CQ. And CQ being tall is grounded and true, right? So we know that CQ is tall and CQ is tall is grounded, and CQ is indistinguishable from CR because CR is the next one. Here, this is an instance of the tolerance principle. From there, we can cut and get that CR is tall and CR is tall is grounded. But again, remember, it was the first item that is not grounded. So we have that, and then we cut again to trivialize the theory. And these two cuts are admissible in strong Kleene based STBG. I'll spare you the details, but it's easy to check that these are indeed admissible instances of cut, both of them, right? So as observed by Bruni and Rossi, just as STT strong Kleene based cannot be expanded to express the notion of unparadoxicality on pain of revenge paradox, the same happens with SSTV. It cannot express the notion of determinateness on pain of revenge paradox. So the only way out while keeping the assumptions as well as the tolerance principle is to reject the admissibility of cut in the previous instances. But to reject this admissibility of cuts is to reject strong Kleene valuation and move again to weak Kleene valuation. And indeed, cut is not admissible in either, though cut is recoverable on this one. So there's still some questions on how you can still say that CR is tall and CR is tall is grounded, but you cannot trivialize the theory. Right? So in short, what we're doing here is very similar to what Mirza and Rossi stated. As they say, just as there are strong reasons for wanting truth to be naive and hence to adopt the non-classical logics or one of the non-classical logics, there are parallel reasons for wanting paradoxical and unparadoxicality to be also naive, and hence to adopt an even weaker non-classical logic, one in which the revenge arguments no longer go through. And that's what we're doing, right? But weak Kleene-based SD is by no means a weak logic. It's very close to classical logic. It can do everything the SD theorist that takes strong Kleene-based can do or want to do, right? Because you can recover all of this stuff. You can recover conjunction elimination for the safe ones, right? But not only you can recover conjunction elimination for the safe ones or different cuts for the safe ones, you can express that, the recapture results in your theory, which is ST cannot do. That's it. Thank you. And consider submitting an abstract to our conference in Kuwait in February.
Nice.
Was that supposed to be?
No, I don't remember.